Scientists have found the function of yet another organ. You know, just like they did with the appendix and the gut microflora and the pineal gland. And I think it's interesting to note that many times when they don't know what the function is, they just say there's no function. So let's talk about the omentum and what that is and what its function is.
So when I was in medical school and we talked about the omentum, it was looked at as this fatty membrane in the abdomen that kind of covered the cavity and surrounded some of the organs. And no comment was made about its function at all. It was thought to be maybe something that's just there for cushioning or whatever. Just like the appendix was thought to be a vestigial organ that had no function, we now know that it does have a function, and that the gut microflora wasn't even talked about. It was looked at as something that's just a waste product. It has all these functions. If you want to learn more about them, put them in the search box in drsabuto.com and you'll be able to find out a lot more about them.
Just like the pineal gland.
Just like the pineal. So studies were done by researchers out of Chicago that were published in the Public Library of Science. And what they did is they were working with people who had problems with organ transplantation, and they're worried about rejection. And the studies that they did, they took the cells, the T cells, that were causing the rejection, of some of these organs that they were working with, and when they exposed them to the omentum tissue itself, what they found was they stopped producing a lot of antibodies, and of course the rejection was slowed down. So they're going, whoa, something's going on here that's a lot more than some kind of fat storage organ.
So do you think the pharmaceutical companies are going to jump on this and try to discover some more drugs?
They'll try to create a drug from it, but the point is that Mother Nature's already doing the job. And so all we have to do is know that that's the case, and then maybe we'll learn something from it that will help us. See, the omentum is really an interesting organ because what it has in it is a lot of stem cells in it. And those stem cells that are stored in this organ migrate to tissues that are regenerating or tissues that are damaged and help them grow back.
So if you have a sore or a wound, it'll go there to help it heal?
Exactly. Or if you have a pneumonia, or if you had a heart attack, or you've had some kind of other problem, we depend on stem cells to do the healing. So those stem cells have to get there. And they're coming from where? From the omentum a lot of the time. So it could be that this is an organ that's for tissue healing and regeneration. Kind of a big deal.
Well, this is interesting to me because it's fatty, and a lot of times we talk about brown fat and people that get big abdomens and
the metabolic syndrome
and how that's not a healthy thing. So is the omentum related to that?
That's the culprit where a lot of fat tends to be stored. And that's where we get this brown fat that tends to make us more susceptible to and it gives us that big belly in the middle with spindly legs and arms.
Oh, so when it's overdone, it probably hampers the function of what this organ does.
Well, it may. We don't know that yet, but we do know that there's an association that when there's more fat in the abdomen, it tends to accumulate where? In that omentum. And if you look at pictures of someone who has metabolic syndrome and somebody doesn't, you look at their omentum, the omentum is way bigger, it's got more of this big brown yellow fat there, and it's the culprit that makes the association of developing the metabolic syndrome, and of course eventually type 2 diabetes and all of its complications.
Of course, it's not surprising that when somebody gets obese that gets fattier because everything gets fatter.
Well, you would, as I think about it, I'd expect fat to go just every place in the body, not just in the belly. But it seems to. So we're learning things. We learned about the appendix. We know now that it's a storage organ for microflora of the gut because it's a blind sac. And if there's an infection that gets into the intestinal tract that gives us diarrhea and all that business, you can't push the infection into a blind sac, so it bypasses it, and it serves as a repository for the microflora of the gut. We know that the pineal gland does a lot to regulate every organ system in the body that's an endocrine gland. And of course the gut microflora is the last one that's shocking to find out that without a normal microflora of the gut, lots of things go wrong that will compromise our immunity. So the omentum, welcome to the club. A new organ, it's important, we should respect it, and as we learn more about medicine, we're learning more about what our human body does.